hello Hufflepuffs, Gryffindors, Slytherins, and of course my fellow Ravenclaws. My name is HimaJen, and today I'm going to be talking about the books I read for the 2019 NEWTs Magical Readathon. I've got my time turner. It's fake. It's like a cheap one from Amazon. Shirt, my Marauders map shirt. But the best part are these stained glass Harry Potter leggings. Woo! There's the trio right on my bum. This readathon was created by G from Book Roast. She just puts an astounding amount of effort and work and just her time into this readathon. So the NEWTs Magical Readathon is based on the exams that the students take in the Harry Potter movies. In April, we did our OWLs, which stands for Ordinary Wizarding Levels. We had a readathon in April, and in August, we do our NEWTs, which stands for Nastily Exhausting Wizarding Tests. It's just mind-blowing how detailed and creative and just fun these readathons are. If it were not for G creating this readathon, or for my friend Rebecca telling me about it, this channel probably would not exist, because this readathon is what started me down the path of reading books like crazy and participating in readathons and making TBRs and stuff like that. Let's look at some stats. So I read 9.5 books, and I'll explain the 0.5 later on. Roughly 3,090 pages. Quite a good reading month, because every book that I read got either 4 or 5 stars from me, so no duds. Physical books, I read 5 physical books, 3 ebooks, and 2 audiobooks that I used the app Libby that's connected to my library. I had just finished the Book Junkie Trials in July, and I read 15 books and over 5,000 pages for that readathon. So I was a little bit tired coming into the NEWTs, and I didn't crush it like I wanted to. I also had a lot of personal stuff go on, and on the last day of the NEWTs, I was in the hospital. So stay tuned to find out if I actually passed the NEWTs and if I got my desired career. I was aiming for Divination Professor, and to become a Divination Professor, I needed to get an outstanding in Divination, meaning I had to read 3 books, and exceeds expectations in Defense Against the Dark Arts, so I had to read an additional 2 books, and to get an acceptable in 2 different subjects of my choosing. So a total of 7 books. So as you can see, I did go a little bit beyond that. I set a TBR for like 21 books or something crazy. We didn't reach that, but anyway, let's get into the books I read. The first book I read was Birthday by Meredith Russo. I read Birthday for the Divination prompt, read a white book, and that got me my A for acceptable in Divination. You can see the just absolutely gorgeous rainbow sprayed edges. This came in an Illumicrate box. I believe it was the June Illumicrate. This is about 2 people who are born on the same day, at the same place, at the same time, and they kind of grow up together. So the characters are Morgan and Eric. Yes, Morgan and Eric. They have drastically different backgrounds, socioeconomic status. They spend every birthday together as they're growing up. This is a coming of age novel, I would say, because Morgan is going through the process of living as her true self. Now, this is an own voices novel because the author is transgender. We learn about Morgan's journey, accepting the fact that she is also transgender, and how Eric kind of deals with it, because they are best friends, but obviously Morgan is going through a difficult time, and plus her mother has passed away. It's just about their friendship, their relationship, and mostly Morgan coming to terms with her identity. At times, this book was very heartbreaking to read. Obviously, the author knows what it's like to go through this difficult time. So at times it was very difficult to read because I just wanted to reach in and give Morgan a big old hug. I enjoyed the writing style, I enjoyed the pacing, I enjoyed the plot. The only thing that makes me sad about this book is that not every transgender person, in fact probably most transgender people, do not have an Eric in their lives. While reading this book, I started to think about how transgender people would feel about it. Would they feel validated by Morgan's experiences? Would they relate to Morgan? Would they feel that Eric and Morgan's relationship was a bit, I'm not gonna say anymore because we don't like spoilers here on this channel. I'm gonna read you a quote from Birthday that I really liked, that it's from Morgan's perspective. "To me, the universe was a simple machine where a person put in effort and compliance and got out peace and happiness. Now I understand that effort and outcome have nothing much to do with each other." Morgan is definitely right. Just because we put out effort and we work hard and we try to live our best lives doesn't necessarily mean that the universe is going to comply to our wishes. So yeah, I would love to hear opinions of transgender people who have read this novel. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it, and I would like to see more from Meredith Rousseau in the future. And I believe she has another novel that came out before this one, and I should look into that. Now, here is where the 0.5 comes in. So to receive an E, or exceeds expectations, in Divination, I thought I needed to read a collection of short stories. Spoiler alert, I hate short stories. I hate short story collections. So I was not excited for that. I kept putting it off and putting it off, but I watched G's video again and I saw that we only needed to read one short story from the collection. That is where the 0.5 comes in. So I read one short story from the book Summer Days and Summer Nights that was edited by Stephanie Perkins, I believe. And so the story I read was Head, Scale, Tongue, Tail by Leigh Bardugo, which is the first story in the book. I'm not sure how many pages it was because I read it on ebook, and you know, like iBooks gets the page numbers all wacky. I had never read anything by Leigh Bardugo before, so I was really excited to read this story. Didn't really know what to expect going in. Eli and Grace, they meet up every summer in this small town, and they are searching for a Loch Ness monster type creature. If you've seen the movie The Shape of Water, which I actually really like that movie, this story gave me very strong Shape of Water vibes. So yeah, it was very good atmospheric writing. It made me want to check out more of Leigh Bardugo's work, so I'm definitely gonna do that. I know I need to read her Grishaverse and Six of Crows and all that crazy stuff. I didn't think I was going to like the story as much as I did, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I'm sure there's other good short stories in that book. I should really give it a chance, but it's September now. Summer's kind of on the way out. Maybe next summer. The prompt for receiving an outstanding in Divination was to read the last book you purchased. And for me, that was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, the first book in the Infernal Devices series. Now this was actually a reread for me, but I listened to it on audiobook. I thought it was 4 years ago, but then I checked my Goodreads and it looks like it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. When I listened to it on audiobook, I gave it 5 stars. So this book, I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's part of the Shadowhunters universe. It takes place in the 1800s in London. Tessa Gray is from New York. She comes to London to visit her brother who is working there, and she gets abducted and a whole bunch of crazy stuff happens from there. Shadowhunters, aka Nephilim, are half human, half angels that defend the mortal world from demons and the like. There are what's called downworlders, so warlocks, vampires, werewolves, I think. And so yeah, Tessa is not a shadow hunter, but she becomes tangled with the shadow hunters, and there's a character in the book named James Carstairs. He also goes by Jem. Every time I saw Jem's name on the page, I got like doki doki. I am in love with James Carstairs. And then I realized that James Carstairs is only 17, and me being a woman of considerable age felt a little gross and pedophilic after that. But when I picture Jem, he's a man in his, I'll say, early 20s. He's a fictional character, it doesn't count. I just keep thinking, why would anyone like Will when Jem is there? Because Will is supposed to be the heartthrob, but Jem, he plays the violin and he's so sweet and gentle, and he has silver hair and silver eyes, and he's just magical, and I love him. For my reread for this, I also gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm currently reading Clockwork Prince. I don't know why when I read it 5 or 6 years ago I didn't continue with the series, but I am definitely going to continue with the Infernal Devices series. I absolutely loved it. So those 2 books and the 1 short story got me my outstanding in Divination, and next I needed to pursue and exceeds expectations in Defense Against the Dark Arts. The first prompt for an acceptable in Defense Against the Dark Arts is to read a book that is black under the dust jacket. Now that proved to be a lot more difficult than I thought it was gonna be. So I was checking the books I have. A lot of them were purple or navy under the dust jacket. On my TBR, I had planned to read A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, which the special edition I have is black under the dust jacket. Oh, I think you can see it right there, yeah. I burned through A Darker Shade of Magic pretty quickly, so I want to take my time with the series and really appreciate it. So when I got a notification from Libby that a book I was waiting for became available, I decided to go for it. After researching that book appears to be black under the dust jacket, I went ahead and started listening to it, and that book is Cinder by Marissa Meyer, the first book in the Lunar Chronicles. Cinder is a Cinderella retelling, but it's set in this kind of dystopian, science fiction-y. Cinder is a cyborg, so she's got like a metal leg and a metal arm, and I'm just a sucker for anything sci-fi. And to me, even more important than character, even more important than plot, is the world. So if I like the world and the atmosphere, that sucks me into a story more than character development and plot. I loved the dystopian world of New Beijing where Cinder lives. I thought the narrator for the audiobook did a great job. Also, there is a fictional plague in this book, and anytime there is an illness in a book, think like the Illuminae files. I love that aspect of books. The ending I kind of had an issue with because I felt like it was rather abrupt, and there are books in a series that can end on a cliffhanger, but that you also feel some sense of completion from the book. So yeah, the ending kind of made me mad, and that's why I knocked it down a star. I do plan to continue. What's going on? Hair. I definitely plan to continue with the series. I really liked Cinder as a character. I really liked Prince Kai. I liked Aiko, her little droid. So I'm definitely going to continue with that, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. For an exceeds expectations in Defense Against the Dark Arts. G announced, and I watched her NEWTs video, watched it the moment it came out, and when she was reading off the prompts, she said, I want you to think of a book. The first book that comes to your mind, that's gonna be the book that you put on your TBR. So this was for Defense Against the Dark Arts, exceeds expectations, and she's calling it Professor Lockhart's Memory Charm. As soon as she said the word memory, I immediately thought of that book, and that book is Recursion by Blake Crouch. G herself is a huge fan of Blake Crouch's Dark Matter, and I actually read that for my owls in April, so it felt very fitting to read his newest novel for the NEWTs. My voice is killing me. I Skyped with my parents for like almost 2 hours this morning. God, I'm gonna have no voice tomorrow. So this is actually the last book that I read for the NEWTs. I started it when I had about 3 days left of the NEWTs. The morning of the last day of the NEWTs, I had about 100 pages left, and I had planned to kick back, spend my morning reading this book, finish it, film my NEWTs wrap up, enjoy my weekend. And that did not turn out to plan because I ended up in the hospital on the morning, the last day of the NEWTs. I still brought this with me to the hospital because I was determined to finish it. In the hospital, I did read some, but they told me to put my belongings in a locker. I was hospitalized for colitis. You can research it if you want. Trust me, you don't want to know about TMI. You don't want to know. I was in the hospital for almost 9 hours. I came home, I still read some. When I went to sleep, I had about 40 pages left. So when I woke up, it was still the 31st in Hogwarts time because I'm in Japan. I'm ahead of Hogwarts time. I finished this book 15 minutes after midnight Hogwarts time. Can we say it still counts for me owing to the fact that I was in the freaking hospital on the last day of the NEWTs? Can y'all give me that? Can you say that this book counts? God, my voice is going. It's going fast. This book is definitely a science fiction thriller, and it deals with the concept of memories. And there's an illness in this book called false memory syndrome, where people have memories of a life that they didn't live. Obviously, this book, it's so much more than that. It goes so much deeper. I wasn't as blown away with this book as I was with Dark Matter because I know what Blake Crouch is capable of. I know to expect any book from him to just be a total mind. Dark Matter, I went into it blind, not knowing anything about Blake Crouch, not knowing anything about the plot of Dark Matter, and was just, I mean, that book rocked my shit, seriously. Again, I know what Blake Crouch is capable of, so I was a little bit more prepared when I went in, but I still thought this was an incredible story, just so well done. He's such a great writer. I will read you a quote from Dark Matter. Perhaps there's a reason our memories are kept hazy and out of focus. Maybe their abstraction serves as an anesthetic, a buffer protecting us from the agony of time and all that it steals and erases. Come on, dude. Such a good writer. Very happy to say I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. For an acceptable in charms, the prompt was to read a book with a gorgeous cover. And I chose this stunning Puffin in Bloom edition of Heidi by Joanna Sperry. I had never read Heidi before. This edition is just so beautiful. I was so surprised to read that Anna Bond of Rifle Paper Company, I've been following her for like years on Instagram, and she illustrated these editions. So you can get these editions in Anne of Green Gables, which is one of my all-time favorite books, Little Women, A Little Princess, and Heidi. I think it's just those four, right? Yeah, just those four. Just an absolutely stunning book. Was published in 1880, so she's an old girl. Definitely a children's classic. There's like no villain really, not really that much of a plot. You know, there's no like climax or anything. So Heidi is an orphan. She is sent to live with her grumpy old grandfather in the Swiss Alps. It's a middle grade book. If you liked Anne of Green Gables, you will like this book. It warmed the cockles of my cold, dead heart. I don't know if you've heard of Heidi or Hygge. What is it? The Danish concept of, God, now I have to Google Hygge. Hygge. So when I think of Hygge, I think of candles and thick, cozy socks and the smell of like cookies baking and just being cuddled up on a cold winter's day indoors with a good book. And this book gave me all the Hygge vibes. Loved the setting, loved the characters. Obviously not like a real action-packed book, but it was just adorable, and so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. To continue on with charms, the book I read for and exceeds expectations, the prompt is read a graphic novel, I chose Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. So this is a beautiful graphic novel, black and white with pink. I loved the aesthetic about that. So we follow Frederica, who is here. She is dating Laura Dean, who is here. And Laura Dean is just, she's a girlfriend. And so this book deals with toxic relationships, how they affect not only us, but the people around us. Obviously, great LGBTQIA plus rep. I loved the art style. I liked Frederica or Freddie. I loved her fun little group of friends. I read this book in one sitting in the bathtub. Overall, I really liked this book. I would definitely read it again, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next 2 books I read were for Transfiguration A, LGBTQIA plus rep, and Transfiguration E, the next book in the series. Those were the graphic novels Heartstopper, volumes 1 and 2 by Alice Oseman. Now, I live in Japan, so I have to be careful with the amount of books I buy because I'm probably not going to stay in Japan forever. I'm going to move back to America at some point. So I need to keep my book buying to a minimum. Now, Heartstopper was originally a web comic and you can still read it online for free. And so that is what I did. Having said all that about having to be careful about which books I buy, I want to buy these books so badly because honestly, they are everything. 2 boys in high school. So Charlie is openly gay and Nick is seemingly straight. He's a rugby player and they are at high school in the UK. They come together for some type of school project thingy. The sweetest, most heartwarming story. I was grinning like an idiot the whole time. Absolutely adored these graphic novels and just how cute and precious they were. 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely 5 million freaking stars. Just the cutest little story. On Twitter, there's a user at Gemma Loves Books. She actually painted the edges. I'm gonna insert a picture here if I can. She painted the edges of volume 1 of Heartstopper with the gay pride flag, and she painted the edges of Heartstopper 2 with the bi pride flag, and just turned out stunning. It makes me want to get those books just so I could paint them like that. Prepare to squeal like an idiot, because the story was just so perfect and cute and I loved it. Then I wanted to read this book really badly, and you're supposed to go in order. Like, you can't just go for an outstanding in a subject. You need to get first an acceptable, then an exceeds expectation, but whatever. I wanted to read this book so badly, even though it doesn't count for my profession as a divination professor. I still wanted to read it, and that book is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I listened to this through Libby on audiobook, and it is read by the author herself. So that is always a nice touch. You get really the authentic voice of the character. So we follow, I believe she's 17-year-old Imani Santiago. She is a high school student, Afro-Latinx, so she is half black and half Puerto Rican, living in Philadelphia. She's going to high school. She is a single mother of her daughter Emma, so she is a teen mom in high school. Imani has a gift for cooking. This book just filled with recipes, and it's always something about food, and it made me realize how much of a cook I really am. The book itself is just absolutely stunning. Another book I'm gonna have to pick up because it's just so gorgeous. Like, how can you not? Even Under the Dust Jacket, it's beautiful. It's got like fruit and flowers on it. I just loved Imani herself. Just such a strong, badass, hardworking, level-headed, intelligent young woman who goes after her dreams. I know I was not that level-headed when I was 17 years old. I love the relationships that Imani has with her daughter, with her abuela, with her best friend Angelica, and I also love the relationship that Imani has with herself. This book is about Imani pursuing her dreams to become a chef. It's about her dealing with, you know, being a single mother in high school. We get a little bit of her co-parenting relationship with her baby's father. There is a love interest. His name is Malachi, and he is, of course, just an absolute doll. Loved Malachi. So I would say this is a YA contemporary. A little bit of magical realism. If you like food and you want to read a great, diverse read, Imani herself obviously being Afro-Latinx. Afro-Latinx people are severely underrepresented in books and movies, and so it was wonderful to see that. A lot of cultures have a very deep relationship with food, like when her and her abuela cook together. Also, Imani receives recipes by email from her aunt who is living in Virginia, I think. So Imani has a relationship with her family on her mother's side through sharing those recipes with her Aunt Sarah. Food and culture and family are so closely intertwined, and it was just a wonderful read. I enjoyed it. There was absolutely nothing I disliked about it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Okay guys, so that's it from me. My voice is like totally gone. I don't know if you can hear. If you participated in the NEWTs, write down below, tell me how you did. If you've read any of the books that I read, tell me your opinions about them. Let's talk about them, get a little discussion going. Did you hate the book? Did you love the book? And you will see me again when I announce my TBR for September. So I hope you guys had a great reading month. Absolutely cannot wait to do the Owls and the NEWTs again next year. Hopefully I'll see you guys there.